Well, here we are, a beautiful day in Dimbaza. They call it a township. Dimbaza location, don't worry, it's in southern Africa, Eastern Cape. That's it, all right? That's all you need to know. Anyway, oh, this is water, filtered water. Scully, this is we're in the side of Lahote House. Lahote House is a little community house that we built, and we got a lot of stuff going on. We're growing stuff. So you just see, you know, uh, I've becoming a gentleman farmer. You know what that means? That means slowly he does all the farming. I just sort of look around and say, oh, maybe blah, blah, blah. They don't listen to me anyway. It doesn't matter. So anyway, but because it's hard work, you see, we got all kinds of stuff growing over there. We got rosemary's all the way over there. You see, there's an avocado tree or somebody's tree there with all that spinach, and this is beetroot here, a bunch of other stuff there. Back there, we got some stuff, zucchini. But not zucchini. We got stuff, like that. And I'm not going to keep doing that. That'll be another time. Another time for that. Now we got to talk about something else because we're in Africa, and a lot of, yeah, we're in Africa. Oh, by the way, this is one of my heroes, cat that I really love. Is Mangalisa Robert Sabukwe and his wife, Madam Sabukwe, Mama Sabukwe, right there. Uh, anyway, that's a teacher I got from Isaiah. Isaiah's come from Zimbabwe. Does this other stuff like that. Mola, uh, next to hey, we live. See, here's the thing. I've been living in South Africa in various situations since I came here and first came here in 2003. Yeah, 2003, and so I've been here 2003. That's 22 years. 22 years. Yeah, I guess that's 22 years. You do the math. I'm an artiste. I'm an audio dramatist. I'm not a math. Well, so I should know some math. Um, Again, this is a copper cup. I got a copper cup. It actually is made in India, but I got I got it from New York, from the VA. It was something I just had to get it. It looks so beautiful. Mm. Anyway, and I got my clove under my tongue. There's my clove there. Okay, here's the deal. Here's the situation. The situation. I'm saying a situation like that because I want to tell you that to prove that I'm black. I'm black American. Or as I like to say, I'm an American African from the South Bronx of New York City. What that means for you is that I'm an American, but I have an African mentality, and I was came through the thing, came through this portal to this earthly realm through the Bronx. That's all it is. And since 1989, I guess officially since 1980. Well, actually in 1988, I've been traveling literally the world since 1988. Don't worry about that part. But now I'm in Africa. I've been in Africa for a long time. I was a place I've been in. When I say Africa, it's so weird. I remember when we was growing up, people say Africa likes a country. It's a continent. They got a lot of countries, a lot of nations. True enough. But what I like about the situation is that, hey, believe it or not, remember when Africa, before they carved it up in the Berlin Conference, or what, 1880, whatever it was, 1889 to 1891, whatever it was, whatever the Europeans came and they carved it up and said, you take that, you take that. Then they divided it up. But until then, Africa was, there were areas, there were empires, but big swaths of areas. But they carved up the little things so they could get there, whatever they're going to get. Anyway, but so everybody always criticized, like for instance, the love trade. Everybody get on board. Everybody from they would name countries. Africa, they treat it like a country, and people was always correcting them. Well, I'm going like, boy, hey, maybe we should be one country. Well, I shouldn't say one country, one alliance, one whatever it is, one something. And I know you have your little, you can still have your with this citizenship, your like I said, I come from America, but I guess in America, um, or United States of North America, then I'm actually a New Yorker, a cat from the South Bronx. So if I had, so I guess my birth certificate where you born, says right there, the Bronx. So in a way, I'm a how would I like if you was from say Kenya, then you'd be a Kenyan African. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then, well, remember that. Anyway, the reason why I say I'm an American African because I'm from America. If I want more specific, I would be a South Bronx American African or Bronx. Somehow it works out. You can figure it out. Anyway, so there's people. This whole internet people. Let me go back. I came to that, like I said, I came in 2003. I came to that because I have a specialty. My specialty is audio drama. That's what I do. So I'm known for. And I was invited to do a workshop at a radio station in Cape Town called Bush Radio, very famous back in the day. They invited me there, and I gave them a 3 month workshop. Blah 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 blah. And then I started traveling all around, and I came back. And one thing led to another, and then basically I ended up for 20 years, 20, 21 years now, 20, 22 years, whatever it is. I've been I've been living in South Africa, traveling around, traveling around. Now let me, before I get off into anything, let me just before I get into the story, let me say this. When in South Bronx, I lived in the Patterson. I grew up in the Patterson projects. I was made in the South in the Patterson Bronx, South Bronx, right? Now, what's interesting about the Patterson projects? It was a different. I think there's supposed to be a video, a film made called Patterson, and it talked about Patterson projects. I haven't seen it. I really need to check it out. But anyway, so our reality was quite interesting. We're talking about this. I was there in basically came of age in the 50s into the 60s, right? This is right. When I got time for me to because we had gangs back then. It's like we had Patterson projects, had it or whatever. We had areas and you protect your area, and the authorities got very they said, "Ooh, we need to break up this little thing that they got going, protecting each other." So they let the area get flooded with heroin and stuff like that. Then gangs came, and well, the gangs turned to whatever they turned to, money motivated, whatever the deal was. And so basically now you had this thing where well, it's crime. It's crime. So my generation, right when I was, like I said, it was about, I guess I was 12, 13, and we took 1962, 63. When it's time for me to join a gang, there was no gang to join because the drugs started to decimate or whatever. But I wasn't into that anyway because I guess I started activism before 14. But anyway, back then in the early 60s, I was listening to, I was checking out like Malcolm X and James Baldwin and stuff like that. I was reading. I was a reader. I guess I still am a reader, but I was a racist reader back then. I read Man Child of Promised Land one night. Claude Brown. Don't mind. Look, so what I realized and grew up by the Patterson Project was a different project than a lot of other projects. I guess Melrose was the same way, which is like Patterson Project is like the South Bronx. It was say 104, 138th, 39th, 39th. So about 139th Street up to about 140, say 140. 46th Street, 147th Street, between Morris Avenue and Third Avenue is like a peninsula, like think of Central Park, like a peninsula. Well, like that it started like that. This it down 39th Street. Train stop was on 38th Street. That's remember. And then it went up like that. So by the time you got to 146th Street or whatever it was, 146th, 7th Street, whatever it is, then the project sort of ended there, and then the Melrose. Then you had about 4 blocks up. Then you go up a few more, well, maybe more than 4, say 6 blocks. Then that's the Italian area. Then you had the Melrose projects, and these projects, the idea of the projects, the project development, whatever they call it, the housing project development. The idea was for people that would be a thing where you a step up from living in squalor, whatever, and then you're supposed to go from there to go other places. You see, like that. So that's what it is. So, but the people when I was growing up, like for instance, in the projects we had different. I was in the Patterson project. We had 13-story buildings and 6-story buildings, right? So floors. I lived on. I lived on Mars Avenue, 340 Mars Avenue, and I lived apartment. I don't even say what apartment is. It might be some sort of thing happens. Anyway, um, and and so you had sections. You had a thing, but you had the elevator, right? I can't. elevator, right? In our section, like 1E, E, F, G. Okay, but it started over in this other section here. We had on A, B, C, D. Okay, so there's four apartments on one side of this of the building. Then in the middle of the building you had the incinerator and the what do you call that? The elevator goes up there, sort of thing. And then on the other side you had E, F, G. Okay, so basically you had 7 apartments to the six stories going up. But I was in one. We grew up in 1E, and right next to 1F was the Laxines. They were white, right? Okay, and next to them with the 1G was the Garcias, right? Well, they were Puerto Rican. So in our little section, yeah, black, white, Puerto Rican, everybody. Just I'm sorry. Okay. Then that would repeat up. Now above me, right above in two uh, uh, 2E was a guy named Chicky, a little hunchback, a white guy, like that. So then we had other kinds of people. We had crippled people. We had even in my family, two of my sisters were mentally retarded, and so anyway, that's how we grew up. It was a very diverse building we were in, and I would tell you this, but we had a tough building. People would not mess with our building at all. Remember, we only 13 stories. Their buildings had, no, but the area was the area. Now, the thing I want to say is, but so my reality of growing up, I grew up in a totally integrated situation. We were just all poor. We met, they said, where's the Jewish people? Everyone wants to, I don't know why. We met them on the concourse because I went to PS 31, William Lloyd Garrison School, which no longer exists. Anyway, and that's where we met. So everybody in that era, we had black, white, Puerto Rican, and Jewish. That was the thing. And I guess Jewish is still white. So black, white, Puerto Rican, white. Let's put it that way. Okay, uh, so I say that. So my reality growing up, I didn't grow up in an all black situation like Harlem or something like that. I didn't grow up in some sort of predominantly white situation, say Roosevelt, Long Island, or whatever. Even my cousins were in Corona, Queens, which is they were pretty well black, and the Corona, Queens is like where Shea Stadium is now. Anyway, so my sensibility, and I noticed at some particular point, if you grew up in an all black situation, you had a certain way of looking at it. If you grew up in an all white situation, but you was the only black person, there were a few black people there, then you grew up in another kind of situation. If you grew up in like me in a totally integrated, we were no big deal. In fact, when they had the whole, busing is the issue, they had the whole busing thing. I was bused before it was bused because I was this program that my high school was supposed to be Morris High School, which is basically down a little bit up from the South Bronx. And that was my. Also, I was supposed to. No, I took the test for Gompers, the mechanical school, which is more in the South Bronx, right? And I think I passed that test, whatever have you. And but because whatever circumstance, I ended up going to Theodore Roosevelt High School, which is up in Fordham Road, all the way up. I had to take the train up or the bus up, all the way up, all the way up there. And because it was the academic thing, they had tracked us since the 4th grade, and then when I got into junior high school, they tracked us even more. And when you finally got to high school, they put us in college discovery, went to the thing. Anyway, so my situation, both racially, if you want to put it that way, as well as intellectually, was sort of different because Theodore Roosevelt was up there was like mostly Italians, and even some Irish up there. So when I guess I'm one of the people that integrated the school. If I could start a group called the Afro American Club. Don't matter. Anyway, we were very radical. I mean, we're talking about like 69, when was that, 67, 68? Man, it was radical time. Uh, so politically and whatever, my head is sort of different. Then I noticed something else. I went into the Air Force 1970, 70, 74. I was in the Air Force, never left the States. Uh, yeah, I ended up at Bulgaria Air Force Base. I was a legend there. I guess I'm still a legend if you go back to the thing. Started a bunch of stuff there, including the Black Caucus, which was it was just amazing. The base man, anybody would they would know. McGuire Air Force Base, 19, when I was there, 72, 72, 73, 74. Yeah, 72, 73. Uh, Legendary. Uh, anyway, I realized something. If in the Vietnam era, there was different realities. If you stayed in the country, in the states, and you didn't go overseas, then when you got out, there was a certain mentality you had. If you went overseas, but you didn't go in country, you didn't go to Vietnam, because that was the Vietnam War time. Maybe you were stationed in Germany or Philippines or someplace else. Then you had another mentality. Shout out to Michael G. He knows what I'm talking about. And then, but if you was in Vietnam, that's a whole other reality. And even there, what you did in Vietnam, for instance, if I went to Vietnam, if they had put me in Vietnam, I had to be in an air-conditioned tent because I was a lab technician. So I guess I wouldn't have been shooting. Well, I was the Air Force. We keep them flying. We support. We don't go around shooting 13-year-olds or whatever. So, but, so I was talking to Michael G about this actually, and there was a different mentality. And even in country, I insist right now the VA is so messed up. The people that came out of the Vietnam, the people that should have got super compensated, all kinds of things instead of being whatever, was what we call the tunnel rats. The tunnel rats was the cats that would go down into tunnels, and they were booby trapped and everything. So they had a very stressful job. You know, the point is, you had different realities in an era. Now, of course, when you do with bureaucracies and stuff like that, they just throw everybody together. Oh, boom, 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 boom. Well, it's different mentality. It's just a different thing, right? Okay. So let's leave that alone. Got out of the Air Force. Did a bunch of, went back to, well, I got kicked out of my Bronx Community College because of activism. That was very funny. Well, very funny. It was very serious, but we took over the school. Blah blah blah. Okay, so when I got out, I ended up going to my second undergraduate school. Well, Bronx Community College, Bronx. Then my college was Livingston College, Paul Rutgers University in the New Brunswick area, Piscataway to be exact. That was Livingston, Piscataway, was New Brunswick area, and so I got my undergraduate degree in communications. That's right, I have a degree in communications. Just wanted to tell you that it's going to come. You'll understand that a little bit later. And also, I should say, when I was in the Air Force, my first thing I was poet in residence, writing out poetry for a thing called Saturday Soul with JB. So my first thing was radio, and so even when I go to my undergraduate studies, even though it was communications, and my focus, my whatever was video editing, the old time video, and also TV production. Yes, yeah, TV production. Those are two my things. But my radio chops was I had my own radio program. I basically am self-taught in radio. Let's put it that way. But I'm also, let's leave that alone. So, uh, so I get out of that. So when I get back to New York, I neglected to tell you this. Right before I went into the Air Force, I was at Negro Ensemble Company, so I was trained in theater. It's a whole long story about that. If you listen to me on this channel, my story is all over. This is because this channel is dedicated to basically is a what do you call that, a memoir, audio memoir, of my life. So there's various things. It's too many videos for you to understand. But if you can sort of see the titles and you can see what's going on. Okay, so ended up. Uh, 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 I wanted to get back to theater, but when I came back, theater had changed. Been 10 years because I left in '70. I got back to New York in the '80s. By then, all the blaxploitation people, all the great acts I know, they were all in Hollywood doing the blaxploitation thing. In fact, my first teacher at Negro Ensemble Company is Michael Schultz. He said, well, Michael Schultz. Car Wash. The whole thing with Earth, Wind and Fire movie. The 30 Degrees Lightning. Hey, Michael. Him, you love him, whatever it is. Anyway, so and Ed Cambridge was a thing of mine. He said, Ed Cambridge was Ed Cambridge. Well, if you see Trouble Man, one of my favorite films, if you see Trouble Man, in the early scene, he's in the pool here, where this guy comes up with a sort of like a Caribbean accent, saying to help his cousin or something like that, and he says, okay, well, that's Ed Cambridge. That's Ed Cambridge. Anyway, so and of course Bobby Hooks played Trouble Man. And he was one of the founders of Negro Ensemble Company. So him and Douglas Turner Ward and Gerald S. Crone are the three founders of Negro Ensemble Company. And because Gerald S. Crone was the money guy, and of course the artistic stuff was taken by Douglas Turner Ward. And I don't know what Bobby was. Well, Bobby was doing Bobby thing, and so all that was happening. I'm just giving that background because that's what I want to get back to, that kind of feeling I had with Negro Ensemble Company when we first started. Because there the first 3 seasons, my first job in theater was to run lights for Daddy Goodness, which is what do you call it? Richard Wright adaptation of a French situ play, whatever, called Daddy Goodness. And so I ran lights for that and a bunch of other stuff in the early productions. Okay, so I go back and the theater has changed. I didn't like it. It was like a lot of nepotism, like a Kabbalism, stuff like that. So I ended up, because I still have a love for theater, and basically I was trained in all facets of theater, but I gravitated towards like lighting and the technical aspect. So when I came back, since the theater had changed, I was part of this group called the Attack Group, ATAC, I forgot what it stands for, whatever it stood for. And we were the technicians. We were the guys that help you hang your lights. We do all that grunt work, like a gaffer, a gaffer in film. Uh, so, uh, so that's my background, like that. Somewhere in there, what I ended up doing is ended up at WBAI radio. So like in the early '80s, started at BAI, and again, I'm a radio person. I knew everything in radio, or editing and producing and whatever it is. I did all that stuff, and I was quite. I know everything. It's community radio, so all facets of community radio I know. In fact, I've done everything in community radio, but general manager and program director. Even though I was the director of the arts director, director of the arts department, which is the music. Think of it as music director. You don't music director, director of drama and literature, whatever. It's all in one department. I handled that department, I'm an artiste, so I didn't want to. Well, I did that job for like 4 years as an administrator. I'm really not. I'm an administrator, but I'm not an administrator. I don't want to be. I'm an artiste. Okay. So I'm saying I'm giving you all that background. Say and I'm engineering the news, whatever. So I have a thorough background in journalism. I have a degree in journalism, but also I worked in a journalism that's close to the ground. We're not talking about like one time I had this confrontation. Yeah, I guess it's confrontation with this cat. I won't give you the circumstance, but he was trying to tell me his bona fides because he worked for, I think it was AP or UPI. It's just AP. UPI is gone, isn't it? He worked for AP, and that was his claim to fame. I'm looking at him and saying, AP, that's like the arm of the government. Oh, people, you cannot impress me whatever you think your bona fides, your bona fides, I say bona fides because I'm black. Your bona fides are, you can't impress me because whatever you did, I done did more. Okay, I'll leave that alone. Let me keep on. I'm gonna get to it now. I swear. So I started traveling, and at some particular point, actually when I was arts director, so I was arts director from 1991 to 1995. Yeah. Uh, And in that thing somewhere in there, so everything's going fine. I knew I was going to leave, and I was living in an apartment on Seventh Street, Seventh Street in the Lower East Side, Seventh Street between avenues B and C. Right? It was the heroin block, safest block in the neighborhood at the time. People don't understand, different realities. I mean, you couldn't loiter on my block. The cats that ran the heroin building, I would say the heroin building, they would come in, what do you need? What are you doing here? And they would chase us. So I had a safe block, which was different than if you was down on Third Street, which was the crack block, which, whatever, I won't get into it. It's different realities, right? Because you always have different realities. Okay, so somewhere in my apartment on the Lower East Side, uh, I we had a world map on the kitchen, in the kitchen, because the way the apartment is, you walk right into basically the kitchen. There was it's called a water closet, just a toilet right there, and there was like a door there which was my room, but nobody would know it was my room because it was just a door that and then you had the kitchen and the living room, and then another, living room, then another room. So I had a roommate. They stayed there. He stayed there. I was over in my little room, but me and houses, I use it for rest, you know, and you know, I'm out all the time. So I was there one afternoon, and I looked at this map we had a world map there, and I said, Anthony, this would be good if you see you've been all by that time I traveled a lot, United States and stuff like that. I won't get into that. That's someplace else, and uh, and I just started traveling. This is 90 something, so I started traveling. I was in a bunch of places around the world. Uh, uh, I was traveling a lot. Just experience, just traveling, just not a tourist, not as a tourist, as a backpacker, as a. It's like I had a long gap year. Now I say, but that's what it was. So uh, ended up because all this time when I was at BA, I was doing these audio dramas, huge audio dramas, and one cat from, like I said, from Cape Town, he saw me, and he said, Anthony, you gotta come. I can't get you down to Cape Town, Bush Radio. We're gonna do. I want you to do a workshop for us, blah blah blah. And I just ignored him because well, I said, yeah, Zane, sure, boom boom. I'm busy, and then finally, I had a little incident, and I quit my job. That's what it was. I quit my position there at BAI and started traveling more. Right, I was in and out up in Canada, back. I was just in and out, all over the map, and working with David D. Wright doing some theater work because a lot of people didn't know I did theater at that particular. Everybody thought of me as a radio person, whatever. But David knew my theater chops anyway. So we did this. I did theater. Uh, the production that another production called Oh Yeah, great production. You should have saw it. At National Black Theater. I'm not going to cut this. I'm going to keep on going. So you might have to leave. Uh, uh, so somewhere in there. Uh, I was also still with the station. I was doing my program Normal Radio, and I was no longer the arts director. I was doing my program Normal Radio. I had already done my stint as production engineer for the station. Doing Normal Radio only, and it's in and out, just one day a week. And then the station, there was a coup. There was supposed to be I went through like a lot of coups, man. This about the third coup that they tried at WBAI. History of coups, man. Somebody need to do that history of BAI. And so um, um, uh, uh, I started working for democracy because of the coup. I started engineering democracy now because I'm an engineer. I'm a news engineer. Well, I started engineering democracy now. So I'm the cat that when we was at the station, they kicked us out of the station because there was this coup happening. They kicked us out of the station, and we was at the Garrett, the fire Garrett at Downtown Community Television. Shout out to John Albert and Keiko. Um, um, so that's where Democracy Now was when we were still a radio program, and when 911 hit. You could actually, if you go back to archives of Democracy Now, if you listen to that broadcast, you'll hear my voice because it was only me and Amy in the in the studio in the fire garage, and so one thing led to another, and this guy Jurgens, what's Jurgens' first name? This cat that was at downtown community television, he came and visited us one time in the fire garage, and because there was a lot of stuff happening with this coup situation. And they're trying to make sure that Democracy Now wouldn't be broadcast in New York. So it ended up that Free Speech Television, as well as Manhattan Neighborhood Network, took it was a daily program, took the program. So then it started changing to you open the cameras, then you see in those early ones, go back to the archives, it's really funny, because in early, you see the newspaper or our production, our set design was basically newspaper. Even if you open, you see, Amy has with the Apple, whatever. When you open the laptop, right, we had like free Mamiya, or Frida Wales, whatever the deal was, like that. And anyway, so I was with them, and then ended up, and to make a long story a little bit longer, I ended up because I had a little incident with the sea, I had a little thing that blah, blah, blah. So I had to stop doing Democracy Now, and I ended up a year in a neck brace down in Washington D.C. in a neck race. Well, actually, it was in Silver Spring, Maryland. Well, I was in a neck race for a year, and the people in Washington D.C. knew what I did at For Democracy Now, so they wanted to start a new program, and the program that started was a national news program out of Washington D.C. Still in Pacifica Network, by the way. So, so I did that for about three months, right? They wanted to give me a contract. At the same time, Zane said, "Hey, Zane said, oh, hey, I got the money. You should come. I need to get you down to South Africa." And at the same time, a friend of mine, Josefina Tavares, shout out to mi corazón, Josefina. Uh, she was Dominican. She was going back to Dominican Republic to work with some children there. Now, Josefina is quite unique. She's black Dominican, so she speaks French, Spanish, but she has a black sense of mentality, African mentality like that. Not like Dominicans, like that. Well, Dominicans don't know they're black, whatever. Don't know they don't have African roots, or whatever they're doing these days. So, ended up going to South Africa, and that's how I got to South Africa. Now, so I've been left South Africa all these years, different realities, back and forth. Never went for anything. So somewhere, a lot of initiatives here in Southern Africa, but I wouldn't do. I was doing workshops or little workshops, little gatherings for audio drama training in the townships like that in Cape Town, like Philippe and Crossroads and Longa, whatever. Kylie, in that area, right? Give the wind, going like that. Sorry, wind. So, so, so what ends up happening is that at some particular point, there's several realities in South Africa. When I got here, like I said, 2003, Cape Town was a certain way. Cape Town changed when the World Cup came. When it was 2010, the World Cup came, and Cape Town changed. I mean, it's like after that, you could feel Cape Town vibe went right down and the zoop down, man. Man, the artistic thing was gone, And then because all these rich people came, it's gentrification. Let's put it that way. That's my short answer. Anyway, so that reality, so there's a reality. So from 2010 to 2002, demise to 2014, I guess 2013, I was doing stuff in Cape Town. But then I said, "Ooh, I've been here too long because I had never lived any place more than since I left the South Bronx in 1970. I haven't lived any place more than 3 years in any one location." We're like, "Whoa, this is not good. Let me get out of here." Right? I didn't say it like that, but anyway, had an opportunity. Well, I made an opportunity to go and just try to do some graduate studies at Fort Hare. So that's what I was at Fort Hare at that time, like that.
Okay,
Mola. So. So I ended up doing that. Being, well, coming up to the Eastern Cape. That's the Western Cape Town is the Western Cape. The Eastern Cape, the so-called, the historic Fort Hare University. That's where a lot of African presidents went to Fort Hare. But what they don't tell you, let me tell you something about Fort Hare, because they're having some upheaval right now. Well, it's corruption. It's just. Man, South Africa, man. Any place in Africa, you got the corruption. Everybody's so much into money that's what happens. Uh, so I ended up at Fort Hare, and what is interesting about Fort Hare back then, because remember during apartheid, they had put all the non-whites had to go. Well, first it was Lovedale College. Fort Hare grew out of Lovedale College. Like for instance, Thabo Mbeki went to Lovedale College. You see, like that. But a lot of other presidents, like Mugabe, you have all these people from the ANC, Z.K. Matthews. You have Bishop Tutu. But Madiba didn't graduate. They kicked him out of Fort Hare. He was very funny. Anyway, so he went there for a second, But a lot of your presidents, your people, hey, Megalese Robinson Bukwe, he was at Fort Hare. So a lot of the leaders back then went to Fort Hare, but they were forced to go there. Then when they finally opened up some other schools, then the colored people went to other places. So when they say, "Oh, Fort Hare, all these presidents," well, they were forced there. Duh. But a lot of people went through there. Right? Okay. So So I'm there at Fort Hare, and I'm thinking, no, I'm looking at the situation, and I just didn't want to take. I didn't take my degree because I didn't like. Well, stuff happened. The first year it was good. The second, that's when they started burning down the school, or burning the school, because of beefs. Now this is very instructive to me, right? Because no, let me leave Fort Hare alone. That's a whole other video. Let me keep on going. So what I'm trying to say is I've been living in South Africa in various situations. In I first lived in Woodstock. Uh, I lived in Paro Valley, which is the Cape Flats. I lived in Langa, which is the first township in Cape Town, whatever have you. I lived all over the place, right? But always low to the ground, not new. Well, I guess Woodstock was little, but regular people hanging out with the expats and stuff like that. But also hanging with the expats, but also expats from all over the world, but also hanging out with the natives, the black folks, like that. So um, all this time, I didn't go for somewhere in there, somewhere I think, yeah, somewhere in there. Yeah, I said, well, let me go for permanent residency because I've been there like 10 years or whatever that was. And so, but that was a whole other thing. I got, I was still in Cape, yeah, I was still in Cape Town. I got scammed there by this woman. Oh man, I can't even, I look, paid the money to help facilitate my permanent residency going through. Ended up, she was a white lady, and the police, the SAPS, uh, uh, South African Police Services, they came in and well, actually, the immigration, I guess it was the immigration people, they busted this woman, and when the guy told me, because it was a whole other thing how that happened, I recounted someplace else. Anyway, that she had, when they busted her, she was just sitting on her couch, very calmly drinking wine, and she had forged all these people, me included. Now I had dealings with her before, but it was all right. When I was visiting Mozambique, I had to get a thing. So I went through there, and it was all right. She was fine, but I guess she must have flipped or whatever it is, whatever. So I got scammed out. So then I had to and they said they were going to help me, because I was scammed, but. Good luck with Africa, with authorities trying to help you in South Africa. Well, in Africa, I can't say Africa. Everybody says Africa. There are well, 50, depending how you count, 54, 55 nations in Africa with different realities. And out of that 55, you got like, what, 3,000 dialects or something like that? Yeah, South Africa alone has 11 official languages, but you have all these dialects. But if you're going to break things up, I think you should do it not by area, but by culture and by dialect, by whatever you're speaking. I won't get into it right now. But everything is different. So if people like to say, well, let's go back to Africa. Well, you can. I understand that. But you have to understand, it's like saying you're going to go from living in New York to living in, what's Stallone's new series, Tulsa. Well, the thing, just to stay with the Tulsa thing, New York is different than St. Louis or Kansas City. There's different Tulsa than different from, you see what I'm saying? It's all different realities, you see? So for you to say Africa, well, we're in Africa. Your reality and your reality, say for instance, in Senegal, that's going to be different than your reality in in Djibouti, which is, I say because they both speak French. Djibouti, which Senegal's on the what do you call it, the west coast. Djibouti's on the east coast by the Gulf. It's different, I was just in Ethiopia, and I know I can't really live in Ethiopia. I don't know if I can visit because of the altitude. It just affects me, right? But I like Ethiopia, right? I've always wanted to go to Uganda, but haven't been there. But I love Zambia. I really like Zambia. Namibia, went through there. Mozambique, love Mozambique. I don't know what they're going through now. All this things change all the time. They change all the time. And so one day you live in Britain, the next day this is happening, and things change. So when somebody says, I want to go back to Africa, well, where in Africa do you think you're going? And how you think you're going to be welcomed? You know what I mean? And it's the funny thing when you see a tourist. Here's the funny thing. I'm gonna give you a short thing. People always say, "Oh, welcome home." And then they say, "We're gonna give you an African name," and I'm going like, "Oh, really?" And what African? I went through this before when uh, when Elijah Muhammad had a son, Herbert Muhammad. Anyway, had a son. So when Elijah passed, went to the ancestors, then one of his. Am I talking about the right thing? Yeah, and well, one of his sons went to. I guess it was the Sunni. Became a Sunni Muslim, an official movement. Right, this a black Muslim, and they were running around. This was the this was the 70s, whenever it was. Not the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, somewhere around there. One of those cats said, "Well, we have to change your name." I said, "Oh, really? Okay, what's the name?" He went through this whole long thing. Da 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 da. I wanted to rename me. Da, da, da. And then I said, "Well, what does that mean?" And they said, and then at the end, it was like belonging to boom boom. I was like, I'm going like, I don't belong to nobody. Ooh. I said, no, no, thank you. It's all right. So when people want to say that you're going to come here, it's African. We're going to give you an African name. Well, we're in Africa. An Ethiopian African name is different than a Moroccan African name, different than a Zimbabwean African name, different than you see, thinking different than Senegalese African name. They're different. So I said, well, look, whatever name you give me, as long as the Anglo root of my name, Anthony Sloan, is Anthony means praiseworthy. It's I changed incomparable. Incomparable, and last name, according to Anglo people, is Sloan means warrior. So whatever you name me, as long as it means incomparable warrior or warrior, then that's my name. Anywhere I'm in Africa, whatever in your language, whatever it means, incomparable warrior or praiseworthy warrior, then that's my name in your language. You can't name me. You can't rename me. You can't. This is well, you can, but I don't have to accept it. Okay. So now we have a situation where you have the whole back to Africa or gone Africa situation, and it's a mess. Well, I say it's a mess. It's going to be a mess because people, you can't just pick up and just move someplace and not even know. You got to do some recon. I guess people ain't been in the military. You got to do some recon. So for me, having all these little situations, and I got scammed or whatever have you, but all these situations, you got to be aware. It's because you just got to be aware. You can't just pick up and leave everything. Now, here's what I noticed also. Now, I live low to the ground, and I'm doing this whole other thing. I have to do it some other time about everybody thinks that money is the holy grail or whatever it is. Everybody's looking for money, 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 money. So naturally, you come along with your American accent. They want to go and they say, "Oh, you got money," because everybody wants to go to America. They got money. Everybody wants to go to America because they got money. So they're gonna say, "Hey, this is my ticket out of here." Whoop. Everybody, I used to say, people used to say, "Oh, you from America? I want to go to America." Yeah, well, I'm here so I can make room for you to go. That's what I used to tell them. Used to upset them. Anyway, so now we have this thing where there's a lot of things happening because of Ibrahim Traore. And my whole thing is like, I love, I call him Commander Ibrahim, because he's forging a way as an example. He does. I don't know anything about. Only thing I know about Burkina Faso is hot, and I know I can't deal with obsessive heat, so I can't go to Burkina Faso. And then people going to give up their citizens. They want to be a citizen of Ghana and do without anything that's going to go. I'm here for my citizenship, with no resources. Black people ain't got. Well, I guess the black people come. They would be. What we call people of means, middle class black folks, would go there, and they would still go to gated communities. This is not a gated community here, right? Here we got our fences over, because we're growing all this stuff. But every morning you wake up and people are yelling, greeting each other as they go by, and it's a different reality. You live in this reality versus you go to, Kigali, and you're in a gated community. Even when I go to Cape Town now. I used to live in, like I said, Pearl Valley. You know, it was a neighborhood, it was a cul-de-sac. In fact, the mayor at the time, the mayor of Cape Town, was living in my neighborhood. Well, I was living in his neighborhood. Let's put that. So there's different realities. But then you had like when I go now, I visit at Somerset West. It's a gated community. You see, so I'm just saying there's different realities. But when you're gated, and you're going to bring all your Americanism to this situation, I don't say you become a target, but you become a person of interest, right? A person of means. And if you listen to all these people that are going to give you a citizen, give you a path to citizenship, they all are looking for, and you can become a businessman. Everything is about business. You know, it's not about, that's what it's about. So all they want to, they want you because you have means to help them build up their situation, which you can. But here's the thing. Here's what I say. Uh, uh, as you do that, I mean, a more intelligent way would be you have to come back and forth to visit what area, what part of Africa you think you want to be. Talk to people, make some friends, talk to people, and then you'll say, now if I'm going to deal with this area, rather than me coming out, let me I'll skip one time. I was on a train ride. I was on Amtrak. Where was I? I think I was going to St. Louis or somewhere. Where I was going to, and so and there's this older gentleman. He had retired from the train from the Amtrak or whatever have you. And he was saying, he was talking about I was in Africa. He said, "Oh, I want to go to Africa. I want to start a T-shirt business." Well, my thing was, well, yeah, you can start a T-shirt business, but that's the easy thing. There's other people in Africa doing T-shirts. Why would you come there with T-shirts? My advice to you, to people who would come and want to help out Africa, would go home to Africa, go kiss the soil, whatever have you. Then I would say that rather than you just come in and just set your factory up and start your thing and just be like the colonizer, just find a goat herder, so a situation where you could say, okay, look, I want to help you with your goats. I want to do a couple of show goats. You know what I mean? I want you to raise them. Da da da. I want to be here, see what's going on. Even what I'm doing here with this farming here, right? See, right now they're picking they're picking the spinach, because we got a lot of spinach and some other stuff. I guess that's pretty. Anyway. Um, you help first. And then by helping, then you're making friends. You see, if I have a show goats, they sell for a lot of money. So I'm helping this guy with his goats. I have some show goats there, right? Then I can make money off the show goats, or I can help him with his thing, whatever it is, or help say crops or something like that, and whatever they sell, let them. You see what I'm saying? You come to help. Now this is important because remember I told you I was living in Woodstock when I was in Cape Town. I made friends with this guy that he had started, white guy. I think he was not in Belgium, but he was somewhere up there, maybe Germany, I don't know, somewhere in Europe. And he started his computer. It was the early days in computer. We're talking 2004, 2002, 2000, you know, 2004, 2005, 2006. And we was talking a lot because of computers, and I have my computer, whatever. And he asked me something. He said something very interesting. I told him what I was doing there, and I was helping out. I was doing this out there. He said, "Oh, you're here. You're giving back to Africa." He didn't say that. I'm messing it up here. But he said, "Well, he's there to basically extract, start his business so he could." Say provide a service, but he's extracting, he's taking from Africa. You see, now so naturally you have all these people that anyway. So that all I'm trying to say is that what's your intention of coming? If your intention is to make money, that's one thing. If your intention is to whatever, that's another thing. If your intention, you see, what's your intention? So now we have people who maybe they've been in Africa, maybe they've been in Africa for a couple of months, maybe even a couple of years. It takes more than that. There's a reason why when they're doing the permanent residency, you have to be here for like 5 years before you. Oh, not necessarily. You can put it right away, but usually it's a 5 year. You have to be someplace 3 to 5 years to get a feeling of it. And then you can find out if you belong there. That's all. That's what I'm saying. So all these people, I guess you'll call it influencers. Yeah, you influencers who come here and say stuff about Africa. Or, I have to leave because I have to do this well. Because you didn't do your recon, and you're not here. You're not here to, how do we say, to uplift. You're here to take away. If that's your intention, well then you want to take. Well, they gonna take from you. It's a taker, taker, taker. If you have for business, that's a business, business, business. If you have for other, you see, what's your intention of being in Africa, wherever you are in Africa? And I'm telling you that Africa has different realities, and you need to be someplace long enough to know that reality. And I can tell you, I see stuff at Fort Hare. I see that I know I know a lot people in Southern. I know a lot about Southern Africa. I know more about Southern Africa than a lot of Southern African people know. I know a lot about Africans don't know. I know a lot about blah blah blah. In fact, I defy. If you think you're coming to South Africa, once you get here, you go any place. You say, "Oh, do you know who? Do you know Mangalisa Robert Sabukwe?" And they'll say, "What? Who that?" That's that. Do you know Chris Hani? You know, yeah, who that? You see, so those are people I know. You're people are stuck on Madiba, Nelson Mandela, or Bishop Tutu, whatever have you. But those are not. Well, they are who they are. They did what they could do. That's what they did, but that's what it is. So all these people are then now. There's this whole thing with Burkina Faso because he's being an example of real Pan African, of real, of how to do whatever. Now people are trying to run to Burkina Faso because he says, or run to Ghana, he says, boop, or run to wherever country they say, well, we can give you citizenship. Well, I'm not giving up my American passport. I'm not giving up my American citizenship, but I'm in the final phase of my permanent residency. So, by the time I think by December, I should have my ID card because permanent residency is one thing. It's one thing, but a part of parents, you get an ID card. The ID card is the thing because I think what's going to happen if Ibrahim Traore, well, commander, if the Sahel people get right and Namibia and Botswana, whatever is going on down there, they get it right, then there'll be a situation because they want the business people to go back and forth. Or you really need it. Instead of getting I don't want a free. You want a free visa, but the ID card, I should be able to take my ID card and go any place in Africa. You know, that's what actually should happen. Permanent residency is one thing, but permanent gives you an ID card, so I can say, oh, you're a permanent resident. You living in Africa? Oh, you're in the Eastern Cape. Oh, you're in a rural area with the real people. I see. Anyway, uh, that should be able to get me around Africa. That's where they should have it. So the ID, I can go to Uganda. Wherever I can go, any place in Africa through ID because all the nations will say anybody with an ID, any African, any African with an ID can go to any country, visa free. That's what should happen. That's what I'm hoping for. But this whole thing about citizenship, whatever have you, I'm a world traveler. In fact, now I go to India. I try to go to India like 3 months out of the year, or maybe more this time. Go to India. So most of the time now I'm between India and Southern Africa, Southern India and Southern Africa. You see, and I've been all over India too, and I know Southern India is where I need to be. That's my whole thing. So I know this. So I'm just trying. As you move around the world, that's what it is. I mean, a lot of people when they ask me, well, how do you like my country? Blah blah blah, whatever they say. I say, yeah. What's the best country you ever been to? And I say, oh, you're a fine country. But the best country I've ever been to, best situation I've ever been in, is Belize. I think my people come from Belize. I'm Garifuna, if you will. A place called Barranco, Belize, which is a little village. When I was there, it was like 350 people. They didn't have electricity. Well, had a generator to last a few hours at night. But I was most comfortable there, big city guy, in Barranco, Belize. So I know, for instance, and I love Brazil too, but you know, and also one other thing, language is very important. Now I'm not one place. Now I should learn a closer language. I do know a little closer, in Afrikaans, whatever it is, but most people know English, and I want to get into that. But the point is, you can't be moving to Burkina Faso is a French-speaking country. You do better in Cameroon if they get their stuff together. Well, you have French, but you also have English. So if you're an English person, you need to be a French person. So you want to have if you're going to be doing business, especially if you're going to do business in a country. I'm not doing business. I'm doing business in a country that you need to be able to speak that language. You really do. You really do. So there you are. And he say, well, but this, I'm going to get scammed. Well, yeah, you might get scammed because you're an idiot because you didn't do your homework. Everybody. So you say, I was telling to Craig, talking to Craig Harris one time because he's a traveling, he's a musician, he travels. And I said, Craig, when we go places, they hear an American accent, all they see is dollars, And he said, that's right. So unless you travel a lot, know that you with an American accent, they think of you as even as a European, they think of you as money to because they're stuck there, they're eating whatever they're eating. We're growing trees, we're growing stuff. So if I ever get jammed up, well, it's not true. I can always go back to the States. But the point is, I got food I can eat. Just last night I made there was some rice leftover rice. Just some spinach, chop that sucker up. Ate me some spinach and rice. I'm gonna make some eggs with some. I got garlic, but the garlic shoots. I'm gonna chop that up. So anyway, you find a way. You find a way for this for you. So I need to tell you this because of all the stuff that's happening with this uh, Africans versus African Americans, whatever the beef is, and especially these folks that come here for business, whatever, and they get burnt, whatever, have then they start talking bad about whatever. Well, you didn't do your homework. So there you go. I got to go. This is me, T from the Pattersons, taking the train to the bed, letting you know what I only suspect.